Time for another brew day here at Irondale Brewing. Today we're going to be making, I'm not sure how to describe this. It's an IPA. It is based on Deschutes Cosmic Creatures, which is kind of, I guess the best way to describe it, it's like a hybrid. To me, it's a hybrid IPA. It's not a standard West Coast IPA. It's not a full-on hazy. And I really enjoy it because it kind of hits that middle ground. I'm coming over to hazies thanks to all my new buddies in the BrewTubers online brewing club that have sent me some really great examples of hazy IPAs. I've had a lot of bad ones, but they've sent Treehouse and some other stuff that is, including ones they've made, and those are all fantastic and are changing my opinion. So I thought I would try kind of a middle ground of a not quite hazy IPA to emulate this Cosmic Creatures Deschutes that I am really enjoying. That's a limited release from them. And what I came up with based on a little bit of research and kind of just some screwing around looking at different recipes is it'll be an IPA, but it's going to have 2 row and a little bit of white wheat. Percentage-wise, it's about 89 almost % of 2 row and about 11 or so % of white wheat. So not a lot of white wheat, no oats, none of that stuff to make it a kind of more of a full-on hazy, but kind of leaning in that direction because there's definitely going to be some haze coming from the wheat. And as far as hops, we've got in the lineup, we've got Citra, Eldorado, Strata, and back in that thing back there is Simcoe. Those go in at, I'm doing a 30-minute boil, so those go in at 30, 15, 7, and 2. Respectively. I'll put the full recipe up. I'll probably do a little intro. I'm just kind of diving in. I'm going to use BRY 97. I thought about getting Verdant for this, but I'm kind of on a little bit of a timeline to have a beer done for an event we have coming up. So using what I got in BRY 97, I've had good luck with. It's pretty clean. A little bit of fruitiness, maybe a little bit more so than SO5 or USO5. And then for water salts in that right there, already measured out 1.15 grams of calcium chloride, 2.04 grams of Epsom salt, and 4.14 grams of gypsum. And starting with distilled water, according to Brewfather anyway, don't need to do anything to adjust the pH. It's about 5.5-ish, which is good. Yeah, so I think I'm going to measure the grains out, get them milled, and get going. Look at those beautiful grains. That is 4 pounds, 6 ounces of 2 row, raw 2 row, and 9 ounces is all of Bryce white wheat, white wheat for almost 5 pounds, 4 pounds, 15 ounces of grains, and we're about to get them milled. All right, we'll take it slow. Whoa. Leave that in there as a blooper. Here we are at the mill. If you watched my video about this mill, this will be the second time I'm using it. I do like it. The last video I did may have sounded like I was complaining because I was in the midst of being annoyed with putting it together and some of the bad instructions, so on and so forth. It's a well put together mill, very high quality. The rollers are super smooth, geared rollers. I like the metal plate there on the bottom. I think you can see fits on a normal, that's I think a 5-gallon bucket. Perfectly, so that's great. The drill situation, if you watched my last video, I used kind of a smaller DeWalt drill that seemed to work for grains that were pre-crushed that I just needed to crush more. Starting with uncrushed grains this time, I'm having to use my bigger DeWalt. I don't know anything about tools, but it's a 20 volt, but it's, I don't know, heavier duty. This one has different settings. What seems to work so far, I'll probably leave a little blooper clip when the mill almost flew off because the torque on the drill was so high. This one has a screw setting. It looks like a picture of a screw that seems to be doing the job. I just did a little bit, and hopefully I'll do it. And low speed. Don't want this to go too crazy. So we'll see how this goes. All right, that probably got moved around a little bit, and there you have it. I probably could have gone faster. I was just a little bit, nervous about going too crazy with this drill because it is. I think that screw setting must be the lowest setting, and it'll take your arm off if you aren't careful, as it has done to me when I'm drilling holes in the yard for planting. So anyway, that's the mill. We'll bang that around a little bit, and then I will show you the result here, which looked pretty good coming out. Yeah, a little bit of, but that's looking good for, that's definitely looking good for Bruneveg. I have the mill set on, sorry, I'm trying to get a good shot, weird angles here. There we go. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so you see it's pretty crushed. I have the mill set on as low as it'll go, which I think is, let me just confirm for reference. Yeah, 0.025, which from everything I've read seems to be good for Bruneveg. The last batch I did where I recrusted grains with that at that setting, I got 84% efficiency, which is, that beer came out way too high because I was not expecting that high of an efficiency. But so I'm shooting for 80 this time, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, we're starting with 3 gallons plus 2 cups of distilled water. And to that, I'm going to add my salts that I mentioned earlier. Put them back on the screen here. Get these in here and get them whisked in. Make sure and get everything out of there. The amounts, especially in 2.5 gallon batches, are so small. You want to make sure and get everything out of there. So it's as close as you can get it anyway. All right, we'll get these whisked in. And while I'm doing this, we're going to do a mash temp of 152 on this one. Thought about doing 150, but I decided I don't want it to come out super dry. So we're going to kind of shoot down the middle, and hopefully that'll be, well, down the middle. Not too dry, not too sweet. Stop for a second so I can see if that's pretty good. That's looking pretty good. All right, I will get the bag out and start getting the water up to temp. While the water's coming up to the mash temp, I just wanted to get another shot of the grains here going through that Mighty Mill 3-roller. Does a really great job. Now I think I have the right drill for the job. That's going to make it easier next time. I took a little finagling this time around, but yeah, just nice and fine crush. You can still see it's not, completely pulverized. And like I said, last batch I did with this, I got 84% efficiency. I'm going to assume that was maybe a little bit high. I'm just guesstimating 80, but this will get dialed in over time the more batches I do. And yeah, so we'll get that mashed in a minute. Okay, so we hit about 156. So I'm going to go ahead and get the grains in there. Brewfather said more like 158. I find it, oops. Tight quarters in here. Find it to be a little bit high, so it should be good. We'll see how this goes. And especially with the wheat, you want to make sure and kind of add it slowly, get it all mixed in, so you don't get any clumps. Not a lot of wheat, but So that looks kind of powdery, but should be okay. Okay, get that mixed in there, and for future reference, I'll see what my temp here is in a second, see how far off I was versus what Brewfather said. Yeah, see a couple of balls in there, we'll get those worked out. Yeah, we're right at 151, pretty darn close, so I will take it. And it bumped up to 152 as I was pulling it out of there. Oops. So get this mixed thoroughly, and we'll just probably have to tweak the temperature a little bit by the time I get it all mixed in. Check the bag, make sure it's not hitting the bottom. If Seems like it is a little bit. I feel like I need one more clip on the front. What I try to do is just have the bag, you know, not on the bottom, but as low as you can get it, to keep the grain nice and loose in there. So you can kind of feel, I can feel I'm still hitting the bottom a little bit. Did better on this last time. Pull that up a little bit. All right, that feels, yep, now I can tell I'm not hitting bottom. Check my temp here. Okay, still 151. I'm surprised it didn't drop more than that. So we'll, in fact, as I stirred it, went up to 152. So that's good to remember, about 4 degrees for my setup from what you want to hit. Brewfather said more like 8. All right, well, you don't need to watch me stir grains for a super long time, so we'll just get the mash timer going on Brewfather, and we'll pick it back up when some more activity's happening. We're about halfway through the mash, so I thought I'd talk about the hops, got all those measured out. Again, it's a 30-minute boil. I'm using 0.38 ounces of Citra at 30 minutes, 0.38 ounces of Eldorado at 15, 0.38 ounces of Strata at 7, half an ounce of Simcoe at 2. The thing in the middle is just Whirlflux, so I have things in order of time to add. And then we're dry hopping for 7 days, second half of fermentation, with a half ounce each of Citra, Eldorado, and Mosaic. And so that's the hop situation. You can see we're holding steady at 152, looking good. So we'll get back on camera when we're doing the boil. Probably should have also said, I like using hot bags. You can debate that all you want. Given the way I do things, I don't whirlpool all that stuff. I keep it pretty simple for my setup. I do keep the hop bags super loose. So you can see this is a huge hop bag. Hops are just down the bottom there. I think, to me, I've never had any issues with, I wish I had better hop utilization or whatever, as I do it this way. Just keep the bag nice and loose so the hops can really float around in there. I do have a hop spider as well, but my question with that thing is, by the time you have this in there, in my kettle, it's one of these, my concern would be, I don't know, I got to think through this, and if you have suggestions, feel free to comment, how you navigate the hop spider with the immersion chiller. And maybe you just don't, or maybe you take it out and chill and put it back in, or maybe you just, I don't know how that works. I haven't thought through that. So anyway, that's my situation with hops, how I do them currently. Okay, the mash is done. Temperature's held really stable this time, which was nice. A little bit of a debate on, in fact, I think there's a Brewlosophy experiment where they kind of debunk the myth that super stable mash temperatures are important, but hey, it makes me feel better that we were at a nice 152 to 151 to 153 for the whole time. So, sorry, that beeping is my inkbird doing something. Okay, so now the fun part. You get to see me not drop the bag, in theory. Figure I'll record the parts where things can go horribly wrong for comedic effect if something does. Gotta take the gloves off to get these clips out of here. All right. Let's take these off while I'm degloved. And I have only been doing 2.5 gallon Brunabag stuff for, this may be only my 8th batch or so. So I'm still tuning in. It gets easier every time. Like my old trumpet teacher used to say, the more I practice, the luckier I get. So it's feeling more like a habit at this point, which is good. And as always, I will probably squeeze pretty hard here. Because again, based on experiments, science, data, etc., no reason not to. And I think get that 80% efficiency I'm shooting for. You, at least if the last time I really measured things closely, that I got 84% efficiency. Squeezed a pretty decent amount, not to death or anything, but got it pretty well drained. And I guess while I'm doing that, I should be bringing the thing up to a boil. Crank up my fan here too. Sorry if that's loud. Okay, that'd be good. Again, I don't do it to death, but see quite a bit, get quite a bit out of there. And then just a quick tip, what I do, I probably said this before, is I soak my bag immediately after. Just throw it in some oxygen brewery wash. Keeps it nice and clean. Get the grains out of there and just get it soaking right away while I'm boiling. And then by the time you're done, it's clean. You can just drain it or dry it. All right, you don't need to listen to this noise while it comes up to the boil. More as it progresses. Okay, we're about to hit a boil here. I usually just leave the thermometer in there long enough so I can keep track while I'm cleaning stuff, basically, about when it's gonna hit a boil. Okay, so that's close enough. Get the thermometer out of there. That thing off. And I usually let it calm down for a second before I throw the hops in and start the timer. And this kettle's big enough that boilovers aren't likely, could happen. And as I'm saying that, it looks like it might. I'm gonna turn the wattage down a couple of notches. I found in this thing, this is a 3,500 watt induction burner, and it's if you have it at, once you get it going, if you have it at about 2,400, that keeps it decent. Rolling boil, lightly rolling. You don't need it to be too crazy while you're brewing. Okay, let that calm down a little bit more. And sometimes I keep a bottle of just distilled water. You missed it. I don't have that handy this time, so we'll deal. All right, calming down nicely. There we go. All right, so I will drop the Citra hops and we will start our 30-minute timer. All right, we're coming up on the 15-minute hop edition of 0.38 ounces of El Dorado. And the thing with 30-minute boil is stuff happens so fast that you got to really stay on top of it. And of course, since I'm dropping these hops in now, this is also when at 15 minutes, it's also when the wort chiller needs to go in. So I'm going to ramp the temperature up a little bit just to compensate for this thing going in. All right. And we'll make sure it gets back up to a boil here. Usually just takes maybe a minute or so. And then we're only 5 minutes away from Wolf Lock, and then a couple more hop additions at 7 and 2 minutes. At least that's what seemed to play out in the Brewfather recipe development. But I don't know, I've never made this before, and it's kind of something I just came up with, cobbled together, so we will see how it turns out. We are about 30 seconds from the end of the boil, 15 actually. So I got my thermometer back in there, showing right at 212. Those ThermoWorks thermometers are awesome. and got the chiller all hooked up. And so once this hits the end here, which is right now, we'll tell Brewfather we're on top of it, shut the heat off. I will turn the chiller on, we'll get it chilled down. I didn't show the last couple of hop additions, but they are in there. We're down at pitching temperature. Gonna just drain that down into the fermonster, and then after that's done, we'll get the sous vide magnet hooked up for the dry hopping. All right, usually when I've done some dry hopping before, I've been able to just stick the sous vide magnet on the side of the fermenter, but I think I'm getting my volumes better, so this nailed 2.5 gallons into the fermenter, which is perfect. So I'm going to do the sous vide, but it's 1.5 ounces of dry hops, so that's a lot. So I'm going to do the sous vide magnet to the lid, which actually worked. I'm glad, because it was too many hops to put on the side because they started to dip down into the beer if I would have let them, so we want to avoid that. So anyway, here's the cool part. Pitching, whoa, BRY 97 for this one. There it goes. I got it nice and oxygenated when I was transferring it. There was some hot matter. I don't know if one of my bags just had a leak or, but whatever, not a big deal. And there's enough in the kettle there that I'll get a gravity reading here in a second. Okay, we got 13.4 bricks. I think I was shooting for 13.5, so that is darn close. If I can do this one-handed, let me see if I can pull up the calculator. 13.4, because I was shooting for 1.054. So, yep, I got 1.0543. Nice. I'm happy to see that getting nailed, because that was a little bit of a thing I've been struggling with for a couple of batches, is just getting that efficiency dialed in so I get the beer I'm expecting. So that's a win for this brew day. And for dry hopping purposes, we got the sous vide magnet on the lid there. Hops are hanging down, ready to drop in a week about. So we'll get it moved into the fermentation chamber. I'm going to ferment at, it's already starting to settle out. I'm going to ferment at 68 for 14 days probably, and then cold crash for 2 or 3. And there you have it, the end result of, all in all, that was a good brew day. Everything went pretty smoothly. Mill's working well. Efficiency was dead on for the original gravity I got. Volume was exactly right, so I'm glad I'm starting to get some of that stuff fine-tuned. And you can just freewheel it, and what you get is what you get. I'm just trying to, as I do more and more batches, just trying to dial that stuff in so I can be more consistent and can predict better what the actual outcome is going to be. So this is good volume. That means my boil off rate and my grain absorption rate and the efficiency for the grind of the mill, given the OG, are all dialed in well. So I'm going to call this brew day a win, and we'll see if the end result is a win in a couple of weeks. Been dry hopping for 5 days, so it's time to cold crash. And it cleared up nicely. It was pretty hazy for a while, and I was out of town for a week, so my wife actually dry hopped it for me, which should have been easy. Remove the sous vide magnet, but it was pinched in the top, so she had to loosen the top a little bit just to let it drop in. But still, largely kept the oxygen out of there. But yeah, I think it's looking coming along nicely, and we're going to cold crash for 3 days, and then we get to see how this thing tastes after about another week and a half or so. And there we are, cold crashing among some fabulous beers, courtesy of quite a few friends. And we're going to cold crash, between 1 and 2 psi to keep that suckback from happening at about 38 degrees for 3 days, and we'll see what it looks like in a few days.